Volley Truthers. This is Coach Johns. A follower reached out and asked, "Hi, Coach Johns. My daughter and I are coaching a middle school team together for the very first time." And says, "Have you done a Volley Truth video on substitution rules? I really need to get these parents informed before they drive me up a wall. Thanks." Well, thanks for reaching out. I haven't done an episode on substitutions. Okay, so I am going to read a post from a social media platform that also came in that kind of aligns with the question that was emailed to me. So I'll read it and then I'll give my thoughts. This post is not in direct result of someone complaining from my teams or my clubs. I wanted to share this because I woke up, opened my Facebook, and saw on this forum a director that got an anonymous letter in the mail addressing playing time. So this was on my heart and my mind. I hope it helps someone out. Why are there players that never sit out? Many reasons. First, when volleyball is played and the teams are picked, and typically there are 9 to 12 players on a team, because of the subbing rules for this sport, completely different from any other sport, there ends up being players that get more playing time or some that never sit out. So many scenarios to be said, but there are just the basic scenarios in volleyball. Before complaining about players that never sit out, you must first understand the sub rules. In most basic terms, each player can only be subbed out for 1 or 2 other players. Once the substitutions happen for that set, it cannot be changed. Example number 1 starts the game in position 4. If you don't know what position 4 even means, then you should not verbally complain about it at all. There's another one that says examples. If you have 9 players on the team, 3 will play typically the entire game and never sit out. The other 6 players are paired up with a player 3 and 3, and they split the court spots 6 spots. 10 players, 2 players never sit out. The other 8 are paired up 4 and 4. 11 players, 1 never sits out, and the other 10 are paired up 5 and 5. You have 12 players. All the players will have a sub partner, or 1 player will still never sit out, and then you'll have 3-on-3 teams that sub in and out for each other. 3 share the 6 spots on the court, meaning if looking at it in playing time, each player gets around 2 sets. This is the reason why your children are having to keep a detailed book at the score table to make sure cheating, quote unquote, or breaking of sub rules isn't happening. Life would be much simpler if we only had to flip the score. Now, sometimes with teams that have a bigger roster, like 12 to 14 players, you'll see number 1 start, number 2 come in for a bit, then maybe 3 comes in later for the same person. But that just means that the rest of what could be a very long set, 1, 2, and 3, will just, keep subbing in and out. Well, thanks for reaching out. I haven't done an episode on the substitutions. And the truth is, volleyball substitutions rules differ, like this reader said, from organization to organization. So here's the general rules if subbing, okay? The substitution zone is defined by the area from the 3-meter line or the 10-foot line of the net to the court and the end line or the baseline. The coach or any other team personnel cannot enter the front zone at any time during the match. The front zone, if you do not know, is the area from the 3-meter line or the 10-meter line to the center line. So how many subs are in high school volleyball? Well, each team is entitled to 15 subs per set now. Each player is allowed unlimited entries within the team limit. Each legal player entry counts as one of the allowable team subs. But note that the start of the set does not count as a substitution. With this many subbing options, teams frequently replace bigger hitters and blockers in the back row with players whose strengths are, passing and defense. But be aware, once a player is placed in a rotation, they may only be subbed in and out for that particular rotation. Up to 3 players may be substituted for the same position in high school. This is not true for club. Now, the libero, who is a defensive player, have their own separate rules. Libero is a replacement. It is not a sub. So when it's entering, It does not count as a sub at all. So please be advised, both the libero and the front row hitter being replaced must enter through the back, not in front of the 10-foot line. Now, how does it affect serving? A libero can serve, but they are only allowed to serve once per rotation. So, for example, typically the libero is seen replacing like the middles. So, let's say middle one is better server than middle two. Since the libero is a good server, well, she is going to serve for middle two. Well, let's just say middle one begins to kind of struggle at the serving line midway through the game, right? Well, the coach cannot just use the libero to serve because, well, she is already served in a particular zone. You know, there's 6 zones, right? The coach can have a DS serve, but be careful because this can cause teams to run out of subs, which could become an issue by the end of the game because the strongest lineup might not be in. So remember, the libero can only serve in one of the 6 zones. Now, USAV, travel ball, or club ball, as it's commonly called, has 12 substitutions that are allowed per set. Coaches have to be somewhat selective, as stated before, especially when running a 6-2 offense where the 2 setters are replaced by front row right side hitters. If a game is tight, coaches tend to run out of subs at point 17 off. If 12 substitutions have been used and there is an injured player, the team may take an exceptional substitution, and we'll talk about those exceptions a little later. But now, the scorer should notify the second referee of the 9th, 10th, and 11th sub. For USAV, entrance of a sub is different. The substitution is initiated by the entrance of the substitute player in the substitution zone, ready to play. Understand me, this doesn't go in USAV, but that player has to run into that zone and then they'll be ready for the sub. A substitution shall only last the time needed for recording the substitution on the score sheet and allowing entry and exit of the players. The coach does not need to make a substitution hand signal except if the substitution is for an injury or before the start of the set. So if the player is not ready, the substitution is not granted and the team is sanctioned for a delay. To request for a substitution is acknowledged and announced by the scorer or the second referee by use of the buzzer or the whistle, respectively. The second referee authorizes the substitution. Now, unlike high school, there is no limit to how many players may be substituted into the same position in club, as long as the players only sub for that position for the rest of the game. For example, if there are 4 players on the bench that has not played, and let's say right side is not getting the job done, coach can make a sub at dead ball. Well, a coach can continue to replace that player in that spot as long as the players have not played in a different position in that current set, and they can only go in for that right side position for the remainder of the set. In college, a coach is limited to 15 substitutions per set per NCAA rules as well. Most substitutions occur when a coach substitutes a hitter for a defensive player who just rotated to the front row and vice versa, if that hitter does not play all 6 rotations. For NCAA rules, the scorer should notify the second referee of the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th substitution. The second referee then communicates this information to the team coach. And another difference is that in NCAA, the substitution can be verbally requested by a designated coach or the playing captain, the more you know. Now, international volleyball or the Olympics, there are 6 substitutions per set at the highest level of the game. Players have to be well-rounded because 6 subs per set doesn't allow for much specialization. International volleyball has slightly different subbing rules than high school, club, or college. You can find more on the rules on international and Olympic subbing sanctioned on pages 37 and 38 in the FIVB rule book. Now, great players who may have been mostly hitters or blockers in college have to improve their passing and defensive skills to succeed internationally. There are such things as exceptional subs. They are permitted only for an injured or ill player in the following scenarios: by a player who has never played in the set, or a player who has played in the same position earlier in the set, by any legal player on the bench, regardless of position previously played, an injured or ill player replaced by an exceptional substitution may not re-enter the set in which the exception substitution takes place. A team may not play with fewer than 6 players if there is a legal substitute, including an exceptional sub available. An exceptional substitution is counted as a team substitution if the team has not exhausted its 18 substitutions. And it's all in that order. As coaches, we must have a solid understanding of the substitution rules, but it's also good to teach the players and their parents about these rules. Parents, there are lots of moving pieces behind the scenes in volleyball that you don't understand or you just don't see. My daughter's team runs a 6-2 offense. She comes in as the second setter. There are games that she only gets in for a few points because our team is beating the crap out of another team, or we are getting the crap beat out of us and can't get out of the rotation. Now, there are going to be times when the coaches have to leave the setter or both setters in the game because we ran out of subs or had 1 or 2 left, but really needed to keep them just in case they needed to set instead of putting the right side hitters in the game. Now, the more you know about the game and what's happening when players are entering and exiting the matches, the less coaches have to justify during or after games and tournaments. Thanks so much for reaching out with this particular question and hope that this absolutely helps. I want to wish your daughter and you much success in this coming school season. And if you have any more great questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Y'all, it is rough out here in these volleyball streets. So until next time, remember, play like you're going to be subbed out. That's all for now, but if you like the content, leave a comment below, spike the like button, and subscribe to my channel.